Tonight, we're taking up Yesod, the foundation. That's the violet circle on the Tree of Life that you see as the one directly above the very lowest circle or sephira on the tree there. I don't know if you can see that it's violet, but that's the color it's supposed to be. And Yesod means foundation. Now, this particular sephira, foundation, remember, being on the middle pillar and being connected with the triune aspects of the green and the orange sephiras, that is, Netzach and Hod, or the desire nature and the intellect. This particular sephira, Yesod, is the balancing factor. It is that which brings together or becomes the functional expression of the two pair of opposites that we call desire and intellect in Kabbalah. And remember, by the two pair of opposites, we refer to the idea of the two sides of a coin. You cannot have one without the other. Neither would be even remotely comprehensible, nor could we be aware of one without the other. Just like we could not be aware of light without darkness. We could not be aware of day without night. We could not be aware of love without hate, although let's hope that we've hated enough so that our awareness of love will have strength, and that which comes up as hate will be merely hate for injustice and become something like righteous indignation, like when Jesus whipped the money changers out of the temple. At any rate, we have different ways of expressing each of the pairs of opposites. And the ideas of good and evil really relate to how we express the powers that we have. And how we express them really has to do with the evolutionary level we have reached at the time. Now, evolution in itself is low for those who are young. It becomes high when you want to think of low and high for those who have gone through enough experience in order to learn how to understand, comprehend, and handle their own consciousness, their own emotional states. Now, what do we mean by handling your own consciousness, your own emotional states? Remember, in this personality level, which we are dealing with, that comes below the yellow sephirah, which is Tifrith, the selfhood, the Christ consciousness, the actual I that we are aware of, which is the individualized I for each and every one of us. Below this individual I, this Christ aspect of our own being, we have the evolving personality. And it is the personality that goes from incarnation to incarnation. It is the personality, that is the group, which we see as the four sephirahs, that's the plural for sephira, the four sephirahs which deal with the desire, emotional nature, the intellectual, mental nature, the subconscious nature. This is what we're talking about tonight, incidentally, the violet, the Yesod, the foundation, and then its material or physical expression. These lower four sephirahs are not low in terms of being something we want to get rid of, because bear in mind that evolution has to do with gradually developing our personality from incarnation to incarnation, so that the personality becomes a complete and perfect instrument in and through which the true selfhood can express. And unless it has a personality in and through which to express, it is unable to express itself in any way at all. In other words, if we are going to be aware of beauty, and beauty is one of the names of Tifrith, the selfhood, the Christ consciousness, the true and eternal ego, which is the reflection of the oneself, that which we call the Son or Adam, generic humanity, that particular part of our being is eternal. Incidentally, honey, I notice the dogs are barking. Do you think somebody should telephone those numbers in there to ask? We have the booklet in there with the different names. Emery, do you know the different ones? It's Dr. George, and then under Dr. George, you'll have his each of a group of numbers. The daughter-in-law first, then the daughter, saying somebody's forgotten to lock up the dogs. He gets very upset. He's very sweet. But occasionally somebody forgets to lock them up. It hasn't happened for a long, long time. And when we let them know about it, they get most upset and they get very careful. It's part of perhaps our test. In other words, are we going to be willing and able to take some of these disturbances and say, well, just part of life, so what? I will concentrate on what's being said, and I will lock away other sounds. Some people think they can't do it, but we can all lock away that which we don't want to. For example, we can all lock away awarenesses which would make us see what we're really like in order to concentrate on that which we want to see in other human beings, negatively or positively. We can look at people and say they are utterly wonderful and marvelous and glorious and perfect. It's because we're refusing to see the full personality level. Or we can look at other people and we can say they are terrible, horrible, low, evil, etc. And that is because we're refusing to see the beautiful part of the nature. It is very hard for most of us to emotionally accept the fact that we are all mixtures and the personality itself is being evolved by our true I, our eternal I, in order to have a perfect, unique, and glorious instrument in and through which to live not only on the physical plane, but in all sorts of other ways as evolution progresses through the various levels. But not until it is tested onto the physical plane do we know we have it. And this is what we really are trying to impress on you with the idea of Yesod, which we call the foundation. What is the subconscious part of the consciousness? Now, some of us have a tendency, can you hear all right? Some of us have the tendency to think of the personality in one way, some of us think of it in another way, but actually the personality is, in essence, the collection of everything we have ever been and therefore are expressing at the moment. Now, whatever it is we are expressing at the moment, though, becomes complicated. Why? Because we concentrate on one or another aspect of this whole group of expressions that we have gone through or developed. And so we lose sight of the total experiences that we have had in order to become whatever it is that we are. Now, subconsciousness holds the record of everything, and I repeat, everything, that our particular I, and every I, not just ours, has gone through. Because remember, every I, every single I, with a capital I, incidentally, is in contact with every other I on the level of Kether, which is the spiritual and universal I, and somebody's coming to do something.
As soon as they can.
As soon as they can. Oh, you had to use a little more Gebura. The thing you do, Gebura, severity, the thing you do in a case like this. Yeah, the thing you do in a case like this is, well, what do you mean when you can? We must have it now because there is great and serious perturbation occurring here. And we cannot leave it to... in other words, you have to put on the pressure. And it's hard for all of us to put on the pressure in some areas. We also sometimes put pressure on in areas where we would do better not to, where we get all confused as to where it should go. But remember that when you want something accomplished on the physical plane, and quickly, and if you know that justice is on your side, you should permit all of the Gebura to enter in, and you should just pose as being a real toughie. Otherwise, they won't believe you. Now, we know most of us are softies, or we wouldn't be in occultism. But that's where all the beauty comes in. The ability to play the role where you can really make people get lost in the idea that you are whatever it is you decide to make them feel you are at the moment. Otherwise, you are not governing the personality. Remember, the personality is the one thing that you cannot rely on as being a permanent something. And if you think you are your personality, of course, you'll get upset by what I'm saying. But when you know you're not your personality, but that your personality is something you own, like a dress, and that you are growing it, sewing it, designing it, changing it, you keep having brainstorms regularly, and so you're doing things with this personality. This means you have to learn how to use your personality as an artist does. That's another reason for beauty being the name of Tiferet, which is the central sephira on the Tree of Life. You have to learn to use your personality where you can sort of bare your teeth and make people think you're a wolf, if it's necessary, because otherwise they'll frighten you and you'll run. The important thing is not to hold real deep-rooted hate, real deep-rooted resentment. The important thing is to use the personality for what it has been meant to be used, as that which is a changing, evolving instrument for the self, which is glorious, perfect, and is the immediate offspring of deity. That's you, your I, my I, the I that belongs to all of us. Now, I will grant that there are a lot of people, we look at them and we say we can't even remotely accept the fact that their I is beautiful and glorious. Frankly, I have a tough time myself at times to admit that certain personalities can be the drawings, the paintings, the architectural design of the central I, the true ego seated in the hearts of men. Because what some personalities do, I admit, and we all have to admit, it's pretty awful. But always we have to remember that children learning how to draw will give us some pretty rough drawings. And anything that we're learning to handle, any mode of artistic expression, and you businessmen don't think that this is omitted, because business is also an artistic expression, whether you realize it or not. You're playing with figures, with if I present this or manufacture that, what return comes? if I hit a hammer in a special way, or use a group of nails in a specific way in order to bring about a certain form, do you think this is inartistic? Now, recognize then that it doesn't matter what you're doing. You may be playing with the forces of finance. In other words, you might manipulate Wall Street. You're still using art, because you're guessing, you're reaching to some kind of inspiration, you're trying to figure something out inspirationally. You may call it logic when you're a man, and you may call it intuition when you're a woman, but you're dealing with forces where you are attempting to produce something that was not there before. And if you are attempting to produce something, what are you doing? You are using art. That is beauty. You are attempting to express something that has not yet been. You are attempting to manifest an image. Now, Yesod, in itself, called the foundation, this is what receives the images. I want you to look at it closely on the Tree of Life. I want you to notice that it receives the influence from every part of the tree above it. This is one of the many reasons, which I will explain to you, that it is called the foundation. And by foundation, the Kabbalists mean what? They mean that the foundation for the physical universe rests on and or in Yesod. Subconsciousness, in other words. Subconsciousness. If you want another term, I'll give it to you. Astral substance. We all have different ideas as to what that might be. But the physical universe rests, or is manifested by, or is expressed from and through that which we call subconsciousness. It's a word. It's only a word until you become aware of the way it functions and participate in its control, by the way. You know, I've pointed out to you before, and I will over and over again, one of the great problems we have with human consciousness, we give a thing a name, and we think we know it. We think we understand it. So we have people say, well, that's only subconsciousness. And they haven't the remotest idea about what subconsciousness is. But because they have a name, they say that's only subconsciousness, and it makes it nothing. Can you see how ridiculous that is? It's a miracle. Everything is a miracle. And to say this is only means that you have become accustomed to thinking of something in a certain way, and you've become so accustomed to it that, familiarity breeds contempt. This is our problem. And familiarity doesn't give understanding. This is the next problem. We become accustomed to certain things. We give them names, and we get lost in misinterpretations. Now then, subconsciousness, as you can see, foundation. The foundation for everything that you and I are. Our bodies, our personalities, our thinking, our feeling, everything that manifests in our life. This foundation, called subconsciousness, cannot be brushed away by that is only subconsciousness. You have to learn to know what subconsciousness is, what it does, and you have to become aware of its workings. So in Kabbalah, in the Kabbalistic Attainment, the thing that is hammered on, perhaps beyond all else, is the fact that when we become fully aware of the mechanism of the universe, that is, the way the mechanistic aspect of the universe works, and we're talking about consciousness, by the way, because this is the method, or the mechanistic aspect, whatever other people may interpret it as being. When we become aware of the way it works, only then do we become the kings, the queens, the masters, the rulers of the manifestation itself. The mechanism of manifestation resides in subconsciousness. Subconsciousness is not something separate from any one of us. Subconsciousness is not separate from, say, self-consciousness. Incidentally, self-consciousness, in its highest sense, is really being expressed by Tiferet beauty, that yellow sephira, the Christ consciousness. Because when you can say, I know who and what I am, this is the development of the fullness of human self-consciousness, the eternal I, the eternal individual, the individual expression of the universal I. So if you will keep this in mind, you will realize that the subconscious part of our being is that which receives whatever understanding we have at whatever stage of growth we're on. In other words, it receives the images. And so Yesod is the realm of illusion and delusion. Why? Because everything we think and everything we feel, this registers in the universal subconscious level, and we have our own little garden, remember, within the universal stuff. I don't know what else to call it. It's mental stuff, by the way. Mental stuff. It's also been called astral substance, astral light. But everything that everybody has ever thought, everything that everybody has ever felt. Now, thought is Hod, the orange sephira. Do you see this? Felt is Netzach, the green sephira, the desire nature, the emotional part of our being. All our emotional responses and emotional drives, all of our intellectual, mental responses, our thinking and analyzing, these automatically go into that part of our being which we may call subconsciousness for the moment, though it involves much else. And so you can see that subconsciousness is on the middle pillar. Remember what I told you, that left hand as you face it, called the pillar of severity, is the feminine pillar. The right hand side as you face it is called the masculine pillar. And these are the pair of opposites, the interplay. But it is the central pillar, called the pillar of mildness, which is consciousness, and which takes the functions of the interplay of the force and form side of life, and gains understanding and growth through the interplay of these pairs of opposites, the outgoing and the inholding. The outgoing being the drive of the masculine force, the inholding being the womb, the maternal universal womb of the feminine force, in any and all its areas and levels. And it is through that middle pillar that growth and understanding comes. This is the consciousness level, using the functions of those two sides. So that in Yesod you have that which you might say receives and expresses the pair of opposites on the personality level that has to do with your desire nature and your mental interpretation of life at this moment. And this is how it would always have had to be. Now, subconsciousness as such, please bear in mind, is not separate from self-consciousness, nor is it separate from superconsciousness. We make a mistake when we make such terrible divisions, when we make demarcations. If you will take a beam of light and think of this beam of light as coming from your own center and going to the sun. That which is 1/3 towards you could be called the expression on one level. That which is the middle section of the beam could be called the expression on another level. And the beam that is between the sun and that middle section could be called a third level. Well, in the same way, bear in mind that superconscious states of awareness, self-conscious states of awareness, and subconscious states of awareness are not separate things. They are different gradations of the one thing. And what is the one thing? Consciousness. Now, the occultist is out to become aware of the full beam. The full beam. Ordinarily, subconsciousness is something that is not open to us, except those of us who call ourselves psychic or intuitive. Now, those of us who call ourselves psychic or intuitive have at times, and remember, at times only, we have glimpses into certain extended levels of certain portions of this beam of consciousness. On the whole, humanity functions on the objective self-conscious level in the waking state. But everything that humanity sees, everything that humanity feels, and the way humanity interprets the experience registers within that level of its consciousness, which is not separate. Not separate. It registers in what we call the subconscious level of the one consciousness. Now, this subconscious level of the one consciousness, when our thinking and feeling in our growth pattern is such that we have these patterns that have registered, what occurs is that these patterns, by their very nature, because consciousness manifests, these patterns form an electromagnetic area of shapes. It looks like that to certain clairvoyants, and to clairsentients they can feel these electromagnetic energies being held in special forms and being emanated in special ways. So what occurs? At times, when we are psychic and or intuitive, or both, we become aware of some kind of thinking or feeling pattern that is taking place in our environment, and then we proceed to interpret it. Now there's where we get into trouble, because we can be psychic and we can interpret this awareness in 100% the opposite direction of its true meaning. Here is where most of us, indeed, often get into trouble. So that our interpretation, that is, our conscious interpretation of an awareness of these subconscious patterns, which are what? Really, that which was conscious. In other words, you felt something. It was conscious when you felt it, but it registers into the deeper part of your consciousness, which we call subconsciousness. You thought something. It was conscious when you thought it. It registered down into that part of your consciousness, which you call your subconsciousness. Now, when this has registered, what occurs is that when enough force and energy and clarity has finally developed around this particular image and pattern, it will manifest. This we will take up next week. We will show you how your body, your environment, everything that you call the physical plane, is merely, and when I say merely, I am not understating it, miracle and glory and beauty. Even if we have warped pictures, children are terrific. They're learning how to draw, and so are we. We're learning how to shape environments positively, constructively, and we couldn't remotely do it unless and until we had the experience. So the manifestation part of it we will take up next week, and we will be able to show you how everything that has ever manifested has been part of a total growth pattern that had to manifest out from the universal subconsciousness and your individualized area of gardening within that universal subconsciousness, which is your personality evolution, and that it is not a one incarnational thing. We are going to try very hard to show you this aspect of it indeed. But let's consider this subconscious receiving area for a moment. Look on the tree and notice how everything registers down into it. First of all, it is immediately connected with your central eye, which we can call your higher self, by the path that goes up to the yellow circle, Tiferet beauty, down into the subconscious part of your being, which we call the foundation. And foundation means the foundation for all else, incidentally. Notice there's a direct connection. Notice that that particular sephira also has a direct connection with the intellect, the orange circle we call Hod, the mental workings, mental interpretations. Notice there's a direct connection with the feeling, desire nature aspect. And they gather together in this area. Notice that both the Netzach, that is the desire nature, the green, and Hod, the orange, the mental part, are receiving down through the pillar everything from the above, that is the cosmic father, from the gray, which we call Chokmah, the vital aspect of life, going down through Chesed, the mercy, benevolent, love part of consciousness that involves the higher soul, right down into the desire nature. On the other side, notice that the mental part of your being is receiving from the cosmic mother, the black circle, that which is holding together in order to hold in the womb of life or consciousness the form, to develop or express or give birth to selfhood within its own vast beingness, being impregnated by the cosmic father. Notice that down that pillar you have the Gebura that we were chuckling about, that which we call the justice part of life. It breaks down old forms in order to make way for new. It also gives the discipline. It gives the push. It gives the livingness to the form, which is what the mother aspect does. And I think that when we take up in our next lecture course, which will start about the middle of January, I think you've been able to read about it in the program, you'll be able to see more thoroughly just what the feminine aspect of life and God and the masculine aspect of life and God does, and just where these functions interweave, why and how. But for the moment, bear in mind that down through each side of the tree, that is the pair of opposites, the force and form side, you have an influx into the personality, the mental and the emotional part of the personality. Then from the middle pillar, you have the universal one, Chesed, the indivisible, down through, reflecting into the Christ consciousness, your eternal individuality, your I, into the subconscious part of your being. So that you can see that the foundation, or Yesod, receives the influence. Can you see that now? It's receiving the influence of every single sephira or aspect of consciousness on the tree of life. It is the receptacle for everything, everything. And here now is where we need to get to understand something that we overlook so often. Being the receptacle of all the other influences, and really quite directly, as I've just pointed out to you by showing to you in terms of the pillars on the tree, that is, the pairs of opposites, as well as the mediating influence in the central pillar, being the receptacle for all else. What have you got now? You've got what the Kabbalists call, and this will interest you, I hope, the pure or clear intelligence. Now, when they explain the pure and clear intelligence as being referred to Yesod, the foundation, the subconsciousness, they are saying that it is here that all the emanations are received, and it is from here that they are tested to make sure that they are pure and whole. In other words, let's become a little folksy and say, to make sure that this is what we really want to do, to make sure this is what we really want to manifest, to make sure that this is what we're after. Therefore, every experience on the physical plane, which we'll be taking up in greater detail next Thursday night, every experience on the physical plane is dependent on what has been received by the foundation, because it is the foundation and only the foundation that manifests the physical plane. As you can see, you notice how it seems to sit there alone, the bottom Malchus. We'll discuss that more. It is almost like something just put up there or put down there as a separate something, and yet you can see it has its connection. The point is, if you will go to any part of your lives, you will see, suppose you decided that you wanted to accomplish anything. Suppose you wanted to write a story or to write a poem. Suppose you wanted to build a house or to build a little cart or a cup. Suppose you wanted to draw something or paint something. Suppose you wanted to indulge in a bit of musical writing. Anything that you did, you would have to have some way of testing to yourself and others, wouldn't you? Whether what you did is really what you wanted, how good a job you did on it. And the testing takes place in and through subconsciousness. In other words, subconsciousness is the receiver of everything that you think and feel, and then expresses or manifests onto the physical plane, which isn't really something separate. It is the subconsciousness that holds an image, and it collects in an electromagnetic manner. It collects the concentration of spiritual substance, which becomes something that we call a physical thing. And yet remember what I have said to you. The only difference between the physical, so-called physical universe and spirit is that the physical universe is condensed spirit. Condensed spirit. The physical universe is not separate from spirit. Anytime you think it is, you go ahead and work with it. If you are following schools of thought that teach you it is separate, then you know very well that what you've developed is an escapism. And all you've said to yourself, I ought to know, I went through it. When I first entered occultism as a youngster, and I thought, ye gods, let's get the you-know-where out of it, except that I didn't want the down there you-know-where, but the up there you-know-where out of it. The idea that the physical universe is an illusion, a delusion, and that we want to get away from it. If we want to look at the physical universe as something unspiritual, what we're really doing, we're indulging in sacrilege, in true sacrilege. Because if the physical universe is condensed spirit, and if, as Kabbalah teaches, and it is demonstrably true, all you have to do is be willing to test it. We'll be talking about the testing. If you want to really look into yourself and see that there isn't any condition or situation which isn't your portion of testing, the images meaning the combination of the emotional desire nature with the mental interpretive aspect of it. If you don't want to really look into this thoroughly, then actually what is occurring is this. Those who want to see spirit as something separate from matter want to escape. They want to escape from the evolutionary privileges of the untold numbers of ultra-squadrillion time. I mean, we can't even give you the numbers of time you have taken as a spark of God through the fetter to develop the ability to be an individualized self-consciousness, and from that individualized self-consciousness to start growing your personality structure. Now, the desire to escape from this, any teaching that says, let's get the you-know-where out of it and get back to samadhi, or let's get back to nirvana, all of these are similar to what our Freudian and our Jungian psychologists tell us when they say that some people want to return to the glorious irresponsibilities of being an embryo in the mother's womb. And let me tell you, it's a heavenly experience. We've all had it, and we yearn for it. All of us, if we could, would give up responsibilities. If we could. But I'll tell you something. Every single one of us have gone beyond the point of no return. What I'm saying is this. You can't go back to your mother's womb, physically speaking. You can't go back to the ecstasy of being aware of nothing but the universal I. I know this experience well. You may accuse me of going back to it when I tell you I can have it at will, but I will deny it to my dying breath. I am aware of it because I can bathe in it for sustenance, but I wouldn't dream of remaining in it because I am too much in love with the universal creation, which God intended me to be and intends you to be. And I hope you are in love with the universal creation. And the universal creation means that you are going to be willing to take on the personality evolution. You're going to be willing to look into your own subconsciousness and to say, these are the thoughts and these are the emotions that make this condition. Just like if you were painting a tarot key, you would say, now when I take my brush and put it in the violet, and I put it around a special card, I'm getting this effect, then I have to put my brush into this particular color to get that effect. You have to see that your effects, because you are painting, drawing, building the physical universe with, from, and through the universal mind. You know, you might say, you have gone past the point of no return in this way by becoming a true, that is, those of you who are, a true spiritual aspirant. You have said to yourselves in essence, okay, I'm willing to take up my part of the load consciously now. Consciously. I am now willing to do whatever is necessary to transmute my nonsensical thinking and feeling. I am willing to look upon my circumstances and see that wherever I have suffered, no one has injured me, no one at all. It's merely been my immaturity, my learning process. You will be willing to take on the responsibilities for your subconsciousness, not with moaning and groaning, not with beating yourself on the head and saying, oh my God, how horrible I am, or how horrible I have been, look what I did. Because, this is just indulging in drama. It's fine if you want to. I mean, drama is good. Do a good job. Whatever you do, do well. You'll reap the repercussions more fully and grow up faster. So that you'll be able to stop wasting all that precious vitality and start using it in a strange kind of faith. Now, as you know, we do not believe in blind faith. We think this is for the infant. And when an infant needs it, it's good. The infant should have it. But those of us who are out to take our evolution in our own hands, and if you've been brought to this temple, at least your higher self is flirting with you in relation to that idea, whether you've taken it up or not. Those of us who have come here are not going to be given, as you know, all of this dramatized nonsense. You know very well that here we're not going to say to you, look, stop worrying. I'll take your karma. Just meditate on me and everything. Boy, you've got it made. You know that when you come here, you're going to be taught to love and laugh and grow. And grow. And that's the whole point. Until you can be willing to love and laugh, you're not really going to be able to grow very rapidly. But when aspiration grows in the soul, and aspiration is what? It may surprise you to know that real aspiration amounts to this: a sort of emotional dedication to transmute your immaturities. Does that surprise you? You know how many people think aspiration means I want to dedicate myself to God. They don't even know what God is, let alone what I am. By I mean their own I. They love to dramatize the idea. Well, fine, now let them play house. Little children put on mama's and papa's grown-up clothes. They'll learn. But here we have to grow up. Or we decide that head of the BOTA, gee, I just can't take her. Well, it's sad. Everyone likes to be liked. We all even like to be loved. Maybe we even love to be loved, don't we? But I'll tell you, we don't have to worry about that. When we really decide that the most important thing in the universe is to become aware of the Yesod part of our nature and start putting the patterns into it that we think are the wisest, and when we become willing to reap the repercussions of the bad drawings and poor or ignorant images, and say, well, thank you, God or Lord of Life. I don't know if you like to talk to God. My mother used to love to make bargains with God. I thought it was rather charming. Sort of helps to get some of the energy dissipated that we might use otherwise in hitting ourselves over the head. Unnecessarily, that is. But the point is, when you're able to say, in essence, to your own inner being, higher soul, God, Lord of the universe, I don't care how, some of you might like to personalize deity. Some of you may prefer to think of deity in the abstract. Not until you experience union with your higher soul will you really have the recognition of deity and the relationship in any case. So that doesn't matter. The important thing is that if you will work at what Kabbalah says, purifying the images. And by purifying, they do not mean what most people think. Now I'm going to get tough. What is your idea of pure? I'll bet 99 9/10% of you started to think of sex. Right? How many will deny it? Raise your hand. Good for you. You know what? Half of you raised your hands. Half of you who raised your hands have an erroneous interpretation of what sex is. You did, but you are interpreting it erroneously. That we're going to be taking up. God knows what will happen. We're going to take that up in the next course, starting in the middle of January. Marriage, love, sex, polarity, and so on. I finally had my arm twisted. I've been fighting giving this course for many years, and the problems that have been arising have become so great. I was finally instructed that I give it or else. I don't know what the or else is. I mean, I've got enough courage to fight even with God, even though I know I'll lose, you understand. You just figure if you put up a good fight, at least you can say, okay, I tried. So I've been fighting giving that particular course that will be given next time, because with my awareness of the Yesod part of most people, I am also, therefore, aware of the extraordinary misinterpretations and the very ignorant responses and the unhappy responses that people have to what we call the sex nature. And you see, Yesod, anatomically speaking, in Kabbalah, Kabbalah gives a certain anatomical attribution to each of these sephirot, along with the psychological, emotional aspects. And the Yesod, the one we're considering tonight, is referred to the reproductive organs of the grand man. And that's capital G, capital M, by the way. Now, the reproductive organs of the grand man, apparently this has to do with subconsciousness, doesn't it? Since the whole foundation for the universe is in this area. That is, not just for offspring, because offspring happens to be one of the ways that this reproductive energy works in and through the physical plane. And certainly, we all have to admit that all offspring come through the act of union and through the functions that have to do with the reproductive organs. Now, those of us who think that the reproductive organs, therefore, are unspiritual, what we're saying in essence is that Shaddai El Chai, that'll get you. That is the Hebrew God name for this level of consciousness. Shaddai El Chai means the strength and life of God. Isn't that beautiful? Mm-hmm. Someday I may even chant that for you. Only I'm afraid it might stir you more than you can take at the moment. There's a lot of power in these chants because they have formulas, as you know. They're formulas for breaking down old patterns in Yesod so that you can, with your thinking and feeling, reassemble this energy into the next phase, the constructive phase for your own evolution. But the point is, those of us who feel in any way whatsoever that the reproductive organs are somehow naughty, bad, impure, and the host of other attitudes and reactions we have, what we are saying in essence is that the Lord of life is a dirty guy. Can you see it? What's the flower? You know, sex organ of the plant. Don't we love it? And all of life responds with natural beauty to the reproductive functions, except man, you know. Except man. Not all men. Let's say, by men, I mean men and women, please. Boys, I'm not picking on you. I should say not. But we have such complete misunderstandings. We are so conditioned by the mass mind of humanity, and that is in Yesod. We are so conditioned by our parents that we have not been able yet, except very, very few of us on this planet, we have not been able yet to utilize this Shaddai El Chai, the almighty strength and life of God, in its beautiful, pure essence. And this is what, of course, I'm going to be out to help you with in a very detailed manner, which will involve your quite an analysis of your personal life in this field, you know, because the outer shows all sorts of things that have to do with the Shaddai El Chai part of you, the evolutionary level that you've attained for the foundation of the expression of this creative force of life. Now the point is, this creative force of life is what? Remember, it receives the images as shown on the tree. It is related to the reproductive organs of the grand man. And in case you want to know what that is, I'll give you a little preview. There isn't a single second or moment on this planet that you haven't got functions taking place which are bringing about the reproduction of every kind of species. Isn't that right? In the southern hemisphere, you have exactly the opposite of what's occurring in the northern hemisphere. When you have winter here, you have summer there. So always, at all times, you have an influx in the creatures, in the flower kingdoms, in the plant kingdoms, in the animal kingdoms, the stirrings that bring about the reproductive functions which give birth to vehicles in and through which Shaddai El Chai lives. I hope you heard that carefully. In and through which. Now, if you want to think that Shaddai El Chai does not live through an ant or a bee, you see you're in trouble. Shaddai El Chai lives through everything, man and all creatures below man on the evolutionary scale. That's why this Sephira, again, also is attributed to the vital animal consciousness. And if you think it's low to be an animal, you ought to watch man sometimes. I mean humanity. Because only humanity has fallen, from the Garden of Eden, from the purity of that function. But there's a good reason, and you'll come to understand it, I hope, quite fully, when we're able to take it step by step and show it to you in the various ways in our next class. But at this point, there's work I would like you to do in preparation for that next class. And the work I'd like you to do is this, to try to see that the sex organs of the grand man involve every creative act that it is on any and every level, and that they are not of a different quality. They are all of the quality of the supreme glory and love of God. But that the differences abide merely in the different kinds, the infinite kinds of expression. Remember, not until you have freed your patterns in Yesod your frozen patterns which react with guilt, with hate, with the ambivalence that so many of us hold for the opposite sex. How many of you girls have never said, "Isn't that like a man?" How many of you boys have never said, "Isn't that like a woman?" I have news for you. However mild that is, it's still a certain ambivalence. Now, if you said, "Isn't that like a man with joy?" or "Isn't that like a woman with joy?" there isn't the ambivalence. The point is, here in Yesod, you have the patterns that are bringing you your joys and sorrows in every relationship. In every relationship. Not meaning that you're bad or evil, only meaning that there's a certain ignorance, a lack of ignorance, a lack of understanding. You haven't built enough castles to be knocked down by the waves. But remember, what I say is that when you've come here, it seems to me, you've probably had enough castles broken down so that you have what it takes to start looking into your subconsciousness in the proper ways and replacing the immature images with that which will bring fulfillment in not just in the male-female relationship, but fulfillment, remember, involves a feeling of unity with all life. So each is different and unique. And in the male-female relationship, you perhaps have one of the final testing grounds. Because remember again what I say. In Kabbalah, Yesod is definitely assigned to that which tests the patterns. And so the testing of your patterns is involved here. And every sorrow has merely been a bit of information to your higher soul saying, well, look, this pattern can go by the board. I need it like a hole in the head. Now let's take this energy and do so-and-so. Now this is intelligent use of real growth. But I'll tell you something. You can't do it alone when you get to this point. Why? Because we are all immersed in the mass subconscious mind. And those of us who are true aspirants are trying to work our patterns up out of this electromagnetic pull of the mass subconscious mind. And it is up to us to get there and get enough above it so that we can instill, in other words, we will be leavening and conditioning this mass. We are the way, the spirit of this planet. We are the way, Shaddai El Chai. Isn't that a beautiful name? Do you love it? Shaddai El Chai. I'm almost tempted to chant it, though. But that should be held off. We don't want to overstir anybody. Because people can get overstirred and break up certain patterns too unintelligently, instead of in a well-directed manner. But the point is to love the living essence of God, which is loving, Shaddai El Chai. We need to love every God expression because it's the one God in the different areas. But when you learn to love it in here, in that area, to understand and want to work with it, what you are really learning to do then is to transmute your subconsciousness in such a way that you develop a strength. And incidentally, the strength of your own individuality comes in that area. This is where you grow it. For example, take people who are easily pulled in any direction. They have not yet developed the strength there of their own individuality within the area of that part of the being. Take people who, the minute they have pressures or tensions, have to escape into all the various things. Some run away to escape into alcoholism, some into drugs, some into books. I always preferred the books. A lot of fun. At least you gain more knowledge, whether it's a right or wrong knowledge. I mean, it's exciting. Yeah. Some escape into very unhealthy, unwholesome, or unhappy relationships, thinking, I'll make a change and this will be it. But no change you make changes it, not until you change this. And this is what we're helping you to do. Well, you can see, when we're working at changing this, there are a lot of people aren't going to go for that because so many people figure everything will be fine if we change the other person. So some people can be here and listening to the lecture, and instead of looking into their own heart and say, so this is where I've been foolish or nonsensical, they'll go home and they'll give their wives or husbands hell. Or their children. And say, see, it said so-and-so. Now, if you will do so, this and that, we all do it. Gee, if only I could have changed everybody. What a wonderful world we'd have had. But life forced me to look into my own soul. And, of course, it does it with all of us. But only as we change ourselves, and this is the area. Pure and clear intelligence really means that we develop the ability to hold the image, the desire, with a clarity and an understanding that we see that everything that is has come from the level of growth that we are, that we look upon the creative life of the universe as being the most glorious sacramental miracle, whether it be a creative aspect on a canvas, on the organ, with any musical instrument, with a drawing pencil, paintbrush, a poem, whether it be growing a flower, baking a cake. It's a creative. When we start seeing all of these things as being the glorious creative aspect of life, and when we include the union of the masculine-feminine principle within the universe as being part of this terrific, creative, vast glory that we see everywhere, then we will be able to take our own creativity on our various levels, and most particularly then, again, into our male-female relationships, and we can make them something that becomes a growing beauty. We should be having our rest. I just want to point one thing out to you. Did you know, are you familiar with the thing that science has discovered that on the whole, not always, but on the whole, married people have a greater longevity than single ones? Have you read that? Do you know why? Well, I can't give you the full story. We will in this next course. But I do want to give you the one point that I want your soul to feed on as a seed. It's because when you have the balancing of the pairs of opposites taking place in a continuous interrelationship that has the electromagnetic inter-exchange, and it has it automatically between people who love, even if they know nothing about occultism, they can think they're atheists. If they love, they automatically release to each other the subtle substance from Yesod. And this is the strong, almighty life of God. Remember, Shaddai El Chai. And so the whole system holds a type of subtle vitality, though they may not be consciously aware of it. It is automatic, as I pointed out. It is automatic, provided the union is engaged in with love and purity, as is usual with married couples. They feel they belong to each other, and they exchange in and with each other their union. So they feed each other subtly, even without knowing they're doing it consciously, just through the act of love. The male using the masculine pillar automatically in this driving, you might say, electric force. The female responding unconsciously if the love is there and the acceptance between, with this magnetic aspect, so that they each receive from the two wire elements unconsciously, provided, as we said, that complete feeling of unity and exchange is there. Although, of course, this is the thing that can be developed and utilized on a conscious level by occultists. And this understanding has been known through the centuries, through thousands upon thousands of years, by the very few initiates who have reached the level of initiation where these secrets have been given. Now, I am not going to give you all these secrets, but I have been given permission to give some of them, a good portion of them, shall we say, the first 3 steps towards it in this next course. And whether you're married or single isn't what is a thing that counts. It's knowing how to understand and utilize this energy and change the patterns inside of you for your own final evolution. So these things will be coming out, but this is the point that you'll have to work on at this stage, in any case, to keep looking into your heart and soul and to ask yourselves the question, what is union really? To be able to answer it, at least intellectually, because not until you experience it will you know it fully. And what we are doing is trying to grow together towards this experience. We need each other to do it, to lift ourselves from the morass of the mass mind that pulls us with its misinterpretations. We need to be able to say, finally, that union with God can come truly and fully only to those who realize that union, one with the other, is always taking place mentally, emotionally, in attitudes, with the wind, with the tree, with the flower, with every creature. In other words, it's whatever response is being made, even heat responses, sad to say, are a type of union. So a very unhappy and destructive kind of union indeed. Very destructive. So we need to be able to see that everything is in continuous union, and that the union between true mates, husband and wife, is not different. It's just another kind of expression. It's not different than all of the kinds of union that exist in life, which really is the expression of the oneness of God. Wherever we go, you are in union with the energies from the farthermost stars in space. They're pouring at you and in you right now, right? Their consciousness is involved in this. You are in union with the breeze. When you walk out and feel that breeze on you, whether it's your hair or skin, whether you feel it or not, you're in union with it. It's just that some of us become aware. You are in union with every sound that takes place. God is a unity, and this unity expresses and manifests, and only as we work on our patterns of isolation that we have received from the mass consciousness because of needing to become individualized, only as we work on these and change them and bring a beautiful idealism to our idea of these various functions and aspects. Only then will we be clearing away the garbage, and incidentally, I'm sorry to tell you, there's much garbage. Well, we're going to work at clearing it away together. As you know, we're working at it. We have been working at it. And those of us who want to stay with garbage, no accounting for taste. is there? But the spiritual fresh air that the heart can know and the soul can experience is so exquisite and glorious and infinitely wondrous that naturally those of us who have it have only one yearning and desire: to share it with you. By God, we're going to do it if I, into whatever measure we can. Let's take a break now. I don't know, I found a couple of things here that weren't here before, and I don't even know who they're from. I think somebody wants to know that after our midnight Christmas service, whether we're going to be able to have refreshments. We haven't organized that yet. I just suddenly found it here. Yeah, if we have refreshments, it should be before, not after. It has a lot of meanings, doll. We're not sure. I hope you're all planning, those of you who can, to come to the Christmas midnight ritual. It's quite a fantastic power that we will unite in that has to do with the forces of the solstice, the winter solstice. And we have a very united and very powerful ritualistic group participating in this, along with, where is that doll? Where is he hiding? Oh, he's hiding out in front. Our beloved Frater Eugene and our beloved Frater David. And I don't know how many of you were here last Christmas midnight service. The reactions were even more wonderful than I anticipated, and I anticipated plenty. Let me tell you, I'm an optimist. But they were even better, and I hope that you will participate in this. It's a very vital part of the year and helps to set the whole energy level, really, as you will see if you participate. And those of you who think, ye gods, ritual, well, that's another talk. Never mind, I've given it before, I'll give it again. All right, now here are two questions. If one does not attain union on the binary plane, is it likely he can attain it on the collective and the infinite plane? This is a very good question and requires something like 27 lectures. Those who think they attain union on the infinite plane, who have not developed the love of humanity, which is union, on the physical plane, are deluded. They're going backward, not forward. They're retiring to the ecstasy of the womb of the cosmic mother. They're retiring to the experience of I all before the individualization process took place. And I don't know whether they succeed or not. There are a few areas in which I haven't managed to get some answers myself, so I'm working on it, even sometimes fighting for it. I'm not sure how well some people manage to regress when they want to give up their responsibility to their own evolution. All I know is that we get to a point of no return when we really are sincere as aspirants, where we have to go forward once we've really made certain dedications and worked at enough portions of our own transmutation. And then we have to go forward even when we decide, that point of no return, our higher soul has managed to take charge of the personality. It's developed enough power for the personality to survive the needed experiences, so it's going to go forward and get the awareness, the love, the perception, and all the other attributes that go with it in different degrees. But I would say very definitely that one who cannot feel love and responsibility for humanity does not even remotely experience the fullness of love between mates. You know, there are different levels of love. They're all beautiful, dears. We're not knocking any of them. But when you get to a point where you love your mate and have union with your mate as the representative of the Godhead for you at this point in this time, that's when you're working with your union in fantastically higher levels, those of you who have the karma at this point for these unions. Certainly, anyone who claims to have union with the infinite and teaches others that union on any other level or plane, and some of the misinterpretations of our Eastern brethren are full of this. These people are leading you down a very unhappy hill and a very erroneous way. I know this from the depths of my heart and soul. I know this from my own experience. I know it from the experiences of others. I know it from my own interior teaching and from that which I've been taught on the initiatory paths. If you are not willing to take what is often called the calculated risk in loving and having union, you certainly are not ready to have union with the infinite or God. That's a temporary answer, at any rate, until we get to more detailed aspects of it. Another question is, please tell us what true meditation is. Honey, that's too much at the moment. True meditation can't be described that easily or readily. We grow into an ability for true meditation, dear. Perhaps we can say it this way. True meditation is the ability for the consciousness to become concentrated and lost in an idea, an ideal, a love, a need for an answer, along with an openness. That is, a willingness to receive truth, reality, as against what we want in our personalities. That's the closest I can come for such a small, it isn't a complete answer at all. But it's a good start, I hope. Also, I would like also, are the Akashic records Yesod? Yes, the Akashic records are Yesod. Those of you who are familiar with the Eastern philosophies, you've heard of the Akashic records. That is, there are records that are impinged on a subtle substance. They're called the Akashic records. Yes, Yesod does hold the Akashic records, but it holds more than this. The Akashic records happen to be one aspect. That is, when I mentioned everything that has ever happened is recorded in a subtle substance. From this subtle substance of thinking, feeling, image, power, will, desire, drive, you have the manifestation. Your Akashic records hold what is going to be, what is, and what has been. But let me tell you, it takes an adept to know which is which. And even the adept will get confused. It depends on what grade the adept has achieved. And even when the adept has achieved a grade that's high enough, that adept is humble enough to say, look, this bugs me. Let's say there's enough humility to know that there are other levels of consciousness beyond, which might know certain portions of it. But at this point, we don't need to know, or we'd know. That's enough for our question. Let's have a very short meditation, please. Top lights out. Incidentally, Praneus meets first and third Tuesdays. I'm sure our beloved and glorious Anne, our Sora Anne Ryan, has told you about it, whatever you need to know. I want you to please relax, but don't relax slumped. Back straight. Keep your head even with your spine. Uncross your legs. You can do whatever you like with your hands for this particular meditation. Either clasp them or have them open, have them up or down, whatever you feel like it. But your feet must be uncrossed. Your head relaxed, even with your spine. Start breathing deeply in and deeply out. Please keep in mind that the rhythmic breath has to do with attuning yourself to the whole rhythm of the livingness of God, or Shaddai El Hai, the strength of the livingness of God. So breathe deeply in and breathe deeply out, taking your own rhythm, because you all have your different capacities. If you're yawning, you're not getting sleepy. This happens when you're relaxing certain tensions, incidentally, and also because your body is screaming for oxygen. So breathe deeply in and deeply out, rhythmically, easily. Make sure your legs are not being interfered with for the circulation. Straight. In deeply and out deeply. Breathe deeply in and deeply out. Now I want you to image the color violet. Deep, vibrant violet. Start it at your feet. Both feet together. Put the violet around your feet while you're breathing deeply in and deeply out. And say to your feet, let go the tension. Let go the tension. Let the violet permeate. Now, I don't want you to just see it in your feet. Stretch it out at least 2 feet beyond, around, front and back. Have a good, large section of violet working with you. Breathe deeply in and deeply out while we're doing all of this, except when I ask you to chant. And then your deep in and out breathing will be in terms of the chant. All right, now let that violet come up through your ankles and calves. Keep it at least 2 feet, front, back, and sides, so it enters into your Yesod part of the aura, that which is the foundation for your physical body, that which has grown your physical body. Breathing deeply in and out. Tell your ankles and your calves to relax. Now you do it. This is your job. You're the boss. You're the selfhood. No one takes your consciousness from you. No one directs it anywhere except you, and as you decide. Tell your ankles and your calves to relax, relax, bathing them in the deep violet of Yesod, so that the subconscious knowledge of every function that takes place in your body and in your patterns can take hold constructively. Purify, cleanse, heal whatever needs healing on whatever plane. It is a receptacle, and you are its director. Continue that violet on up through your knees, calves, hips, reproductive organs, intestines, colon, lower and upper, bringing it on up to the waistline. Now breathe deeply in and out, and command every cell and every aspect and every function to relax, relax, and to give itself to the direction of Shaddai El Chai, the strength and life of God in you. The strength and life of God in you. Give it up to that. You are safe, because Shaddai El Chai, the life and strength of God, are guided. This is what guides and controls you. You're giving up to nothing but that. Relax. Now let your consciousness run down back to your feet and back up to your waist, taking in each and every part of your body, your functions, and say, relax. Bring it up to your waist, swing it down, but remember to keep it 2 feet, front, back, and sideways into an oval type of energy. Breathing deeply in and deeply out. Relax, relax to Shaddai El Chai, to the healing and strength and light and life of God. Now start back upwards. Bring it up, this violet light, this violet color. Include your hands, your wrists, your lower arms, your elbows, your upper arms. Swing it up through the intestines, the lungs and heart, including your arms, don't forget them, all around an oval, going upward through the shoulders, and bring it to the base of your throat, 2 feet in all directions, breathing deeply in and out. Now say to every set of those muscles and functions, relax, relax, relax to Shaddai El Chai, the strength, the life of God in me. I relax into thee, Shaddai El Chai. Heal and strengthen and bring life to all these areas. Now swing the light and life back down to your feet. Swing it up and down to the base of your throat, including every one of those parts of your being. Up to your throat. Down. Swing it up. Down. O Shaddai El Chai, as I breathe thee in, as I breathe out, I give up to thee the tensions and the problems for the healing and the light and the strength and the life that brings wholeness to me. Swing it down, swing it up. Shaddai El Chai, receive all these parts of me and their functions for perfect activity and healing and wholeness. Now bring it up through your throat, all around, remember, 2 feet around, inside and outside. Now watch your spine. Swing it up and down, making sure that it hasn't missed your spinal column or the muscles through the back. Up and down. Swing it up and down now, so that you have it up to your chin, paying particular attention to make sure that your spinal column has this energy of Shaddai Il-Chai taking over. Relax your back, the muscles of your back and your spine. Swinging the violet up and down to Shaddai Il-Chai. Now slowly bring this violet strength and light and life of God up further. See it sweeping through your face, strengthening, beautifying, relaxing. See it coming through the back of your head, through your ears, through your eyes. Relax, relax to Shaddai El-Chai. Relax the muscles of your eyes, your ears, the back of your neck, the back of your brain, to Shaddai El-Chai. The Lord is in charge, and I am with Shaddai El-Chai. Relax it, all tensions, and see the strength and life and light entering in and charging with relaxed vitality. Now bring it up through your eyebrows, your forehead, back of your head, inside of your head, forebrain, middle brain, back brain, on up. Make sure you remember the 2 feet around. Your body is not just the physical body. You're putting a new pattern into that which is the foundation of your physical body. Shaddai El-Chai, relax the tensions of your brain, forehead, back brain, middle brain, scalp, relax it to Shaddai El-Chai, relax all those muscles. Now bring it 2 feet above your head, and now notice that you are an oval of violent light. Now swing down from Shaddai El-Chai through every portion we've mentioned, down to your feet, charging with the light and vitality and strength of God. At the same time, relax the physical to Shaddai El-Chai. God built all that is. You can afford to relax to the life of your own being, the strength of your own inner being. Now swing it up. Say, I give to thee, Shaddai El-Chai, all tensions and problems. Bring to me the solutions and the receptivity. Now swing down, receiving the receptivity of Shaddai El-Chai, all the way down to your feet. O Shaddai El-Chai, I release to thee my problems, my ignorance, my immaturity. Swing up, all the way through and through, relaxing up to and giving up. Now give it up to Shaddai El-Chai. Breathing deeply in and out. Every problem, every care, every fear. Give it up to Shaddai El-Chai. Release your tensions. Give it up. I open myself, Shaddai El-Chai, to thy life, thy strength, the purification of my pattern. Swing down with the violet light. Accept. Relax and accepting. Accept Shaddai El-Chai's patterns of maturity and transmutation. Swing back up, relax and give up to Shaddai El Chai. Breathing deeply in and out. We will now chant 3 times the divine name Ahaya, so that Ahaya can take care of all aspects of what we've been working with, the one, the indivisible, the spark of the Spirit, which is responsible for, which lives, breathes, has its being, and grows all the other separate aspects of our being. 3 times we shall chant Ahaya. Let's have the tone. Breath. White light of Ahaya pouring down in and through the violet of Shaddai El Chai and mingling with it into a more living, vibrant, radiant, but more pastel violet. Breath. Answer of the white brilliance permeating you more and more. Breath. O thou, the one, the indivisible, unto thee I give my every problem, and from thee I receive my every solution. The strength and life of Shaddai El Chai I work with, in, for, and with thee, in gratitude and love. Let me walk in this awareness ever more fully, O thou, Lord of all livingness, beginning of all beginnings, light of all brilliance. Now I want you to bring all the white and the violent brilliance back into your physical body. Think of yourself as the physical body. Open your eyes and blink them. Resume your normal breathing. Wiggle your feet, your ankles, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your hips, your stomach, your buttocks, your lower and upper diaphragm, your hands, your wrists, your lower arms, upper arms, shoulders, your chest box, your neck. Now twist your neck around one way, now the other. Now stretch your arms up. Now tense them. Now tense your whole body as you stretch upward and feel your body. Receive yourself back into the expression, into your body. Wiggle. That's it. Blink your eyes a lot. Blink. That's right, shimmy. I like that. That's right. Now good laughter. Shimmy, do something that will make you laugh to get fully back into the consciousness of your personality and body. The work will work. grimace, make faces at me. I don't care if they're funny faces. I think they'll be beautiful. But get your muscles, get your consciousness back into your muscles and your body fully. Wiggle and twist and turn and figure, well, I'm with my family. I can twist and wiggle and turn. And keep the normal. Now, don't drive your car for at least 5 minutes. Anyone. We've had a lot of extra force. And we want to make sure your consciousness gets fully back into your body. And then you'll drive better than you ever drove before. Make sure you keep your consciousness on your driving. Yeah. Okay, now I'd like you to stand up and get certain other portions of your body circulating. And you might wiggle and stretch a little more that way, we might have a dance, huh?